Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Johnson, and welcome to our presentation today, 4 Reasons Not to Overlook AP and AR Automation. We appreciate your time and attendance today. We're going to move fairly quickly through the presentation. It's being recorded, by the way, so after the presentation, will be sent out a copy of the recording to view at your leisure. Secondly, if you're familiar with GoToWebinar, there's a panel on the right. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in. We're monitoring that so we can pick up any questions you may have. Today's concept for this webinar came out of the fact that we're seeing increasing interest and growing trends on people looking to automate both AP and AR. Typically, as we're all aware of, that these were considered somewhat backroom functions in our businesses, our organizations, our company, and they're now coming to the forefront as organizations are now looking for better ways to be more efficient, to increase visibility and control, and less dependency on paper. So we're seeing a dramatic shift, or what some have called the tipping point, when we're speaking in regards to automating accounts payable and accounts receivable. We've come up with 4 reasons that we hear periodically that people are looking to automate these processes. My name is Mike Johnson. I work here at AvidXchange. We're out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We've been in this space for a SaaS model for the last 15 years, which means no hardware or software to buy. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. I'm being joined today by James Mallory from Anytime Collect. James, say hello and introduce yourself.
James Mallory, Anytime Collect, and we do kind of the same thing that AvidXchange does, only on the accounts receivable side. And much like AvidXchange, we are also available in a SaaS model.
Great. Thanks. So James and I are going to have somewhat of a conversation today for those in attendance, because what we're seeing, from the 4 reasons, this is our quick agenda, reducing manual labor, no more filing cabinets, improved customer and vendor relationships, and simplified compliance. These are things that are happening both in the accounts, the payable part of the business, as well as accounts receivable. So as we go through this, we're kind of going to talk about what he's seeing on the receivable side, I'm seeing on the payable side of some of the drivers, and reasons why people are looking to automate it. So when we're talking about reduced manual labor, it's really taking the touches out. People are doing more with less. They're not looking to really hire more people to push paper around a department. They have highly skilled labor, people that have gone to school for finance. I think you're probably seeing that on the receivable side too, James. People with finance backgrounds that are looking to use their skill set more than chasing paper around a business. Getting rid of paper and filing cabinets, improving that customer and vendor relationship, that dynamic, that's really critical to all businesses. And then really simplify compliance, because on both AP and AR, when it boils down to it, it's all about those lovely audits and compliance issues that we all confront. But first I'd like to start with defining really what is AP automation. For those of you in attendance, maybe you are starting to begin the journey, maybe you're somewhat automated, maybe you've got a scanner, you're doing some kind of doc management. But I'd like to show you something that's really near and dear to our heart. This is what over 15 years our customers have shared with us. It's really the process before automation, and it really equates to what are they doing day in and day out. What we're seeing is typically an invoice comes in, somebody's either opening it. It may be, you're probably seeing a growing trend, as I am, that the invoice is coming not only by mail but also coming by email. So somebody's opening email or opening mail, they may be attaching a PO, routing it, coding it for approval, and then entering it into the accounting system. And then when everything's ready on the back end of the process, they're doing a check run. We're still seeing about 50% of business today here in the U.S. Still enamored with producing a paper check and putting it in an envelope. And by all accounts and all research trends I read and events I attend, paper checks are one of the most frauded documents in business today. So companies are really looking for ways to get out from that paper check and stop the risk associated with putting that in the mail. Then the invoice is filed, and we go through the whole conundrum of research. When a vendor calls or the boss says, hey, what's going on? I need to take a look at that invoice. We have to go digging in filing cabinets to find it, and hopefully it's where it was, where we put it last. What we see here is what we do here at AvidXchange in our SaaS model in the cloud, no hardware or software to purchase. Typically, we remove everything you see here that's crossed out. We remove by technology and people. As a SaaS model, it's software and service. I accentuate both because software takes you to a certain part, but we'll take the extra step to really make sure that the information, the workflow, the approval, the routing, everything you get enhances your experience and allows you to quickly process an invoice all the way through the approval, disputing phases of the AP AP lifecycle. So everything you see here from invoice in, from opening the mail, the PO, the routing, to coding, to getting it into your accounting system, and the back-end process of printing can be automated. And we'd welcome some time, at a future webinar, or if you're interested in learning more, just, we'll provide you with our contact information. We can send you all sorts of information up to, including providing you with a demonstration of what it may look like in your world. So I'd like to turn it over to James for a few minutes to talk a little bit about the AR collections process.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. And we see really the same exact kind of thing, but it's on the reverse, right? When we start talking to prospects, and it really doesn't matter what industry they are, and sometimes it doesn't even matter if they're small companies or big companies, they typically have a very similar process, and it's very paper-based. And it starts with printing that all-important aging report, right? We want to find out who owes us money, how much money do they owe us. But then from there, we got to kind of prioritize the call. We need to figure out, who did we call last? Who didn't we get to last week? Who owes us the most money? Who has an open dispute? So we're trying to prioritize that call list, maybe even prioritize them by a time zone, because we're trying to call people in California when we're on the East Coast. We can't call them too early. So from there, the next step really is let's find out who are our contacts. Maybe this is a new customer we've never called before. We've got to look that up. Probably looking that up either in our accounting system or maybe in our CRM system. Looking at the call notes, find out if we did have a conversation with them previously, what was that conversation. Then we're going to check our personal email, right, because we might have sent them an email last week. We want to find out if they sent anything back. Now we're going to look up invoices, because it may not just be one invoice, or maybe more than one out there. We want to make sure we have that information readily at our fingertips when we start making that call. Then we make the call. Then we're going to document the results of that call. And the way most of you probably do this today is you probably have a piece of paper, or maybe you're making notes on the aging report itself. If you're really, really high tech, you're probably making notes on the customer account within your ERP or your accounting system. And then you're going, if you're really, really, really technically savvy, and scheduling a follow-up activity on your Outlook calendar. And really the end result here is we go from that printed aging report, we want to get paid. That's it. We provided a quality product and service to you. We want to get paid on that. So on the next slide, we're going to show you what we eliminate, which is, again, much like AvidXchange, the majority of all this manual, tedious, labor-intensive process. What we really want is a prioritized call list. We go make the calls, we document what we did, and we get paid. So that's kind of what we're doing there to really automate and streamline the entire process.
So you're taking out a lot of steps, like we are, from an AP perspective. You're doing on the AR. So yeah, I think you would echo the same sentiment, James. It's really what we're saving people, and we like to coin it, we're time brokers here at AvidXchange. We're giving them back enormous amounts of time in their day, their month, their year, that they can focus on more strategic functions and opportunities within their own organization to capture additional revenue, to streamline processes instead of shuffling paper through the AR or AP process. But
yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's all about gaining efficiencies in your business.
Which kind of segues next, and really nicely next, into what you presented with us with a slide the other day when we were talking, is doing more with less. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this was a study that was conducted by PayStream Advisors, and I know you guys work with them as well. Yeah. They do a little bit on the receivable side. And one of their studies, the traditional collections chart there, that is basically what we just walked through, that manual process where you're printing out the aging report and trying to prioritize what you're going to do, preparing for the call, finding out all those invoices you need to follow up on, etc. And what you're going to see here is that if that whole pie there represents your availability of time. In a traditional model, you're spending about 15% of the time just prioritizing your calls, about 15% of the time preparing for the calls. The 40% there, which is the bigger chunk, is remediation. That's when you have invoice disputes and you're trying to manage that whole process, which can be extremely cumbersome and, as we all know, very time-consuming. The end result is if we look at the darker orange, we're only spending 20% of our time actually soliciting our customers for payment. Well, that's the whole goal. We want to get paid. Now, if you go through an automated process like we do with our Anytime Collect product, you can see that we're able to spend almost 3 times as much time talking to our customers and getting paid because we're spending a heck of a lot less time prioritizing our calls, preparing for them, and managing disputes and even analyzing the information. Actually, we're able to spend more time analyzing and getting more insights into our receivables because we're having such significant reductions in the other areas.
Yeah, I can echo those sentiments, James. A while ago, I had an opportunity to run a company for 5 years, and I had wreck-to-check experience, so that meant opening and closing the books on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. And this was one of the more fun tasks I have was doing the AR and meeting with the customer service, collecting the data, getting ready to make the calls, and then the inevitable chase. The phone call, the voicemail, the email, the phone call, the voicemail, just to get somebody to talk to you. So anything you take out as far as those steps in the process would have given me more time to work on other things in the business. So I can see a huge advantage to this. So, and to be perfectly candid, on both sides of the conundrum in finance with AP and AR, it's really doing more with less is really important and critical because we're all wearing multiple hats. We're all growing and trying to grow our businesses and stay above the water, keep our heads above the water, and it becomes challenging when you're moving paper around either the AR or AP process. But as we promised, there really are four things that we want to take advantage of. And the first one is really reducing manual labor. When you talk about a SaaS technology or in the cloud, implementation, how do you get there? We do this in within 45 days for our customers. So we'll build a portal and we'll load it with your vendor information, your accounting codes. So you're really eliminating that manual data entry. The codes are in the system. It's smart. It's intelligent. It can auto-code by vendor. You could set up some parameters around that. You're reducing fielding, calls or vendor inquiries because you're really focused on getting better visibility and control into your process, approving invoices. You can collaborate with vendors and internal customers over invoices. We're not mailing things around our office or in our office or emailing. I spoke to a temp agency earlier this year that automated the process with us, and they have 35 offices, and between the emails and mail going out and the Federal Express and overnighting of things, it was fairly costly for them to continue to follow a manual path. And that they all inclusive filing cabinets. So one of my colleagues and I were on a call with a warehouse. What is it? I think it was a fund service company, and they had actually 3 garages that had filing cabinets in it from over the years that they accumulated, just to maintain access to those in case they were audited. And then, approving and routing and visibility is critical to any finance executive, is being able to see where they are in the process. And, and as a cloud solution, we're supporting that mobile advantage that you have. You don't have to be handcuffed to the office. You can be out at various locations, out with customers, out on business trips, be getting alerts and notification that you've got invoices for your approvals, and along with payments, and make informed decisions by logging into your portal and seeing where you are in the process. So, James, do you find that really, you're reducing manual labor on the AR side too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have companies that really buy our application for one of 2 reasons, right? You're not buying it because you want to buy more software. You're buying it for the end result, much like you guys are on the AP side. And the main reason people come to us is because they want to get paid faster. But there are companies that are already getting paid, fairly quick. They're pretty happy with that. But they're growing, and they don't want to have to add more staff to the back office to manage the AR process. So what they want to do is do more with less, right? They want to be able to grow, maintain the same size staff, and offer the same level of service while keeping their DSO in line with where it's at today. So, we can do this a number of different ways. We do this through automated communication, really is fundamental and paramount to what we do. We have a rules engine that sits on top of your AR data that we synchronize in from your ERP or accounting software. And it can do things that you never even get to. How many of us have time to remind customers via email to pay an invoice when it's not even past due? Too often we're out there just chasing, as Michael alluded to earlier, chasing the past due receivables. But with technology the way it is, we can put an alert or a rule on top of that data so that any customer that has any invoice that comes due in the next 3 or 5 days where there's a balance due, they automatically get a reminder email, maybe even has a hyperlink in it that they can click and make their payment online via ACH or credit card. And we can also include a copy of the invoice so they can't say we didn't get it. And we can do that at, before the invoice is due. We can automate dunning letters, past due notices, statements, any kind of communication that you could trigger off of an event or some of the data. We can completely automate that whole process for you. We talked about earlier on that last slide about spending more time calling your customers. We don't have to prioritize because the software is going to create a list for you. Here's the customers that are severely delinquent. These are your first calls. You're going to make those. Once you're done with those, the next calls on your list might be the third calls you make or the second collection calls. And then you get down to the end and maybe you're doing some account management calls, maybe credit reviews for customers, that kind of thing. So you're not spending all that time or wasting all that time preparing what to do. You're enabling your customers with a self-service portal so that they can review this information online, they can make their payments online, get their invoices online, even communicate with you online via chat or notes that they can make on the portal. And the big thing too, and you guys probably find this a lot, Michael, I'm sure, is people without our technologies have to use 3 or 4 or 5 different systems to be able to do the same thing. I know on the AR side, we work with companies every day, and they're using their accounting system. That's where the AR data lives, but they might have their contacts in CRM, and of course they're using their personal email inboxes for all the communication, and they may have other data elsewhere. What we're doing and bringing to the table is everything's in one place. It's organized so that you can be more efficient.
And that's kind of a nice segue, because if it's organized, we're essentially doing what the next slide articulates is eliminating filing cabinets. So what are your thoughts around that, James?
On the filing cabinet side, we live in a digital world. We're getting, on a lot of cases, we're sending out invoices to customers via EDI. We're sending it to them electronically. All of that's kind of been there. But what still happens is we still have this tendency, and you alluded to it earlier with the printed checks, this kind of attraction to paper for whatever reason. And it's so inefficient because every time that we create a piece of paper, we then have to file it. If we ever need to go back and get that piece of paper, it takes time to go find it. And then, of course, you have the problems with the revisions as well, especially if it's an AR invoice. Was it the original invoice? What if we modified that invoice? So there's so many inefficiencies with filing cabinets and paper. We've embedded within our application the ability to create and send PDF copies of invoices, create and send PDF copies of statements. We have an electronic record that it was sent if it was bounced back or if it was sent successfully. We can create mail merge templates to customers, saves a lot more time. We don't have to file any of that communication. Your customer documents can all be digitized, scanned, put into the system. So if you have contracts, maybe you ran a credit report on customers, all that can be stored at the customer account level. And then, of course, you've got your supporting documents, right, on the invoices. Depending on the industry you're in, maybe you're in transportation, logistics, you'll have a freight invoice. You might be in a distribution industry where you're delivering product. You might need to provide them with a proof of delivery that's related to the invoice so they can see that they actually did receive it. Could be in manufacturing, a bill of lading. In professional services, we're a professional service organization. A lot of our customers, when we invoice them for time on projects, they want to see a timesheet. What exactly are you billing me for? So all these related supporting documents we can attach at the record level within AR. And I'm sure, Michael, you guys probably see even a bigger benefit as far as removing the need for filing cabinets on the AP side.
Yeah, we do. And as you were going through your process here of getting rid of paper and eliminating filing cabinets, I was thinking back to my experience. I wish both these solutions were around when I was running the company, because you were bringing back some bad memories of tracking information down and managing the AR and AP function all together in an organization. But it all starts at the beginning for us, and paper comes in typically in the AP department, as we all know, with that invoice. So in our philosophy has been a couple points. One is that we want to mirror your existing process internally and externally. So whether the vendor wants to email it or send it via mail or via EDI or some point-to-point terminal, whatever they want, or you want to simply scan it in, we'll accept that data the way it's coming in today. So little to no change management is involved in automating the AP through AvidXchange. We're just going to try to marry up and mirror your current process. So the ability to log into a secure portal, grant people access to your portal, the who, what, where, who you want have access, what they can do when they are, and where they are in the organization. We work in a role and rule-based solution, so it's who you are in the organization kind of inherits the what you can do from the approval process. So we'll mirror your process. So we'll get 100% electronic submission. In that, the minute you start scanning data into a solution like AvidXchange, you get an electronic audit trail. And this is really the kicker that really excites the CFO in most organizations, the controller, the AP managers, that there's no more guesswork involved. Because the moment our system takes it in, it starts to do a date and timestamp. So you can look in the history tab of the invoice life cycle and see who touched it, what they did, any comments they made, any attachments to that invoice. It may be a packing slip, it may be an insurance document, a manual. They're all going to stay linked together. So back to James's point, we're not going to be running around looking for into different systems for information. It's all centralized. And the ability in the SaaS world to really have 24/7 access to all this critical business information, in controlling that process yourself. We work in you train the trainer. We support our customers by enabling them to drive their own business by just teaching them how to use the portal and be more effective. So it helps from a month-end closing to a year-end closing, and it all important time drain we all have, which is research. So moving on to improve customer and vendor relationships, what we're doing again is in this slide we're really capturing time. We're giving time back to you, so you have time to negotiate vendor discounts. If vendors are willing to give up discounts for you to pay earlier and sooner, we all like that game. Net 10, net 30. But the average time, according to folks like PayStream Advisor and Aberdeen, is somewhere between 30 and 45 days to get an invoice through our approval cycle. That's because of all the work and touches that go through it. We actually, and what I like to note here, that we actually have a tool on our website at avidexchange.com. We can do your own ROI calculations. So it's answer some simple questions: how many invoices, how many payments, how many people are involved in the AP process. It generates a report. It's great research material and backing to any organization that's considering automation of the AP process, and just gives it kind of credibility. What am I going to get back? So as far as saving time, we're trying to shorten that cycle. In our world, we're seeing that going down from 30 to 45 days down to really less than a week. So 3 to 5 days is average. And just providing visibility for vendors. You can invite, because there's no seat or site restrictions on this, you can invite vendors, lock down the control of what they'll see, and they can collaborate with you and work with you in your own portal. So they can submit invoices, track them, and then you can comment back and forth to them, questions about the invoice, questions about the process. So from an AR perspective, James, what are you seeing as far as improving those relationships?
Yeah, for us, accounts receivable is nothing more than an extension of customer service, if you really think about it. We implement CRM software to do a better job of managing our customer relationships. That's what CRM stands for. But it seems like we forget about that after we sell it, and now we're trying to get paid on it. By implementing a solution that really extends the customer relationship, you're enabling some things for your customers that are going to help improve that experience. For example, customer self-service portal. If I'm a customer and I continually have to call you and ask questions about the invoices or even to get the invoice, and most customers want to pay on time, that's kind of problematic for me, and it's not going to sit well. But if I can enable my customers, give them a self-service link, they can go out there anytime, look at any of the information, make it easy for them to pay their bills online, make it easy for them to communicate with me online. It's going to go a long way toward that customer service. Dispute resolution is actually even more important. To be honest with you, based on some of the research we've done, most of the time companies don't pay their bills is because it's our fault. To Michael's point, he was talking earlier, you know, some companies it takes 35 days just to get through the approval process. Well, why is that? Maybe our invoices are too complicated. Maybe we're not providing them the information they need on the invoice. So there's things that we need to track. If a company has a dispute, for example, maybe they're tax exempt and we keep charging them tax on accident. Maybe we're charging them the wrong freight rate. Maybe every shipment of product, 5 or 10% of that shipment is damaged on the way there. If we can start to track these disputes and reasons for disputes, we can then do an analysis, get to a root cause analysis, and maybe we just need to do something very simple. Maybe we need to change the company that we're shipping with. Maybe we need to package something a little bit different. All of this is going to improve that customer relationship. You know, in the automated communication, just having the information there for the customers is going to make it that much more easier for them. You know, the relationship management, I always say, you know, if you don't get paid on what you sold them, did you really sell anything to begin with? No. What we are is really an extension of AR, but we're even more so an extension of your CRM. You know, we're going to take that customer relationship from the time that you prospected to get them as a customer, to keep them as a customer, get them to where they're paying you on time, and then maybe you can expand your services, sell them more products, get referrals. And it's all about improving that customer experience on our side.
And speaking about customer experience, some of the things that we're talking about really have to do with compliance, you know. So we know we're running up against the half hour that we committed to. So we'll pick up the pace a little bit, but as we mentioned earlier, this presentation will be sent to you in the recording. So, you know, from an AR perspective, we're SAE 16 compliant. That's one of the requirements if you're hosting financial information. That's an audit we run. And from the payment perspective, we'll manage deposit, pay files that so many banks these days are really requiring you to have. Vendor data security, which is always that bugaboo that some companies are leery about keeping vendor payment information on site because of the risk of fraud and temptation. We'll host that in a secure environment. And then that easy audit trail with the read-only access that can be granted to auditors. So, you know, again, because we're not restricted by the number of people that can use the portal, you can grant permission to your auditor to do a quick search on invoices by number, by vendor, generate reports, and you can help them with that, or you can just prevent them from occupying your conference room for a week or more. So it's a nice tool. Many of our customers are enable their customers to do it. On the AR side, it looks like you're very compliant, James.
Yeah, I mean, our hosting provider is Microsoft Azure, and Microsoft is probably one of the largest hosting companies in the world out there with Amazon Web Services and some of the others out there, Ruby on Rails. So they handle a lot of the compliance of the data on the back end for us. But really the compliance we're simplifying for the customers are things like Sarbanes-Oxley, right? You need to ensure you have controls in place for those compliance requirements. PCI on accepting credit card information online, so you're handling those credit card payments securely. CPA audits, HIPAA compliance if you have sensitive healthcare information, which we do have some customers in the medical industry. And then, of course, all the cloud data compliance that's out there and ever-changing.
Yeah, but we're all interdependent and dependent on our customers, and we put together just a quick couple of slides on the advantages, from an anytime collect, what you've done as a testimonial, real world results.
Yeah, this was one of our long-standing customers, and their big thing was they had kind of this disparate system that we talked about, printed aging reports, they're working on spreadsheets. What they did with our application was pretty cool. They were able to centralize everything. They had collectors in 3 or 4 states, brought all that information online in a SaaS model available to anyone, anywhere that had access to it. And they were able to get paid, basically, it's not part of this here, but they were able to get paid about 40% faster, and they were able to do that all the while with less effort. They took half of one of their credit managers' time and allocated it to other applications within their business. So pretty significant real-world result there.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds very impressive. So, and this is one you have, you know, from AvidXchange perspective. Janet Baxter's been a longtime customer, like your previous slide. At Heart Pathol, it's a private girls' school, and really we're having a significant impact on her life and saving her time and getting her through her daily process. So,
okay, back to the AR side. This is one of our newer customers. Just went live probably within the last 6 to 12 months, I would say. The automation Anytime Collect has given our collectors exactly what they needed, and that's more time. And don't we all need more time? And it's amazing to see what can be accomplished now. That the time-consuming, repetitive steps have been basically taken care of automatically. You know, and really the end goal here again is let's make it more efficient. Let's use technology where it's appropriate, but we want to get paid faster. And with Aerotax, they were able to do all this easier, faster, and still get paid 30% faster, which amounted to about 2 weeks. And that's pretty significant when it comes to your cash flow.
yeah, and I like that. You know, it's use technology where it's appropriate, and that's applicable on the AP side. So, you know, from Chip Vaughn's perspective at the Wilton Companies, you know, he actually equated to a dollar amount. So we're saving him about $72,000 a year, and part of that, you know, fiscal responsibility that you may have as you look at AR, AP solutions is somebody's going to ask you what the ROI is. So the tool I mentioned before can help you start calculating what the time savings and the hours are spent. We have much more robust tools to help you measure that spend, and that's currently going on in your AP process to show you what your current cost per processing an invoice is and what it would be if you automate the process. But back to James's point, and certainly there's been a theme throughout, is providing you or giving you back time, valuable time that you don't have in your day to focus on other things in the business than chasing AP invoices or doing, you know, the inefficiencies associated with accounts receivable in the old paper world. So I think that pretty much wraps us up for today. We do appreciate your time. James, any final thoughts?
I think I just want to thank everybody, and again, if you're researching, that's fine. You know, on our side, we've got a lot of information out there too. You know, you're gonna pick the right time in your business to start to investigate, take that next step. You know, when you do, you know, we certainly just want you guys to keep us in mind, take a look at what we have, and let us help you evaluate the solutions and see how we can help you.
Everybody have a great day wherever you are. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or late morning. So thank you all.
you